Welcome back to These Things Are Written. Glad you're joining us on this Tuesday as we are continuing with Luke chapter 1. We'll be looking at verses 5 through 8 today. A reminder, during this Advent season especially, we're going to be going through slowly and looking at different sections and what God says to us through that and how it impacts us today as well. So we're going to start verse 5. In the days of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah of the division of Abijah, and he had a wife from the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before God, walking blamelessly in all the commandments and statutes of the Lord. But they had no child, because Elizabeth was barren, and both were advanced in years. Simply states at the very beginning, in the days of Herod, king of Judea. He's not trying to set a specific time at this point. That comes later on in chapter 2 as he explains and outlines everything that is happening when it happens, the birth of Christ. Why not as specific here? Because it's not as important. Time to Luke is very important, being more of a Greek writer, and he will show that time at other instances, as we'll see as we go through this first chapter also. The first person is introduced in Luke's gospel, and it is not Jesus, it is not Joseph, it is not Mary, it is not even John the Baptist. It is Zechariah, a priest, it says, from the division of Abijah, one of the 24 divisions that King David set out from the Levites, from the descendants of Aaron, to serve in the temple. That was who he was, what he did. It also mentions then Elizabeth, his wife. Now Elizabeth, it says, is a daughter of Aaron. Both of these people came from the priestly line, from the tribe of Levi. Elizabeth, it's interesting, one thing I learned as I was digging into this today, is that Elizabeth is a Greek rendering of the name of Aaron's wife, Elisheba. Elisheba is how it's pronounced in Hebrew. Elizabeth is how it would be pronounced in Greek, or a little bit different than that. But that's how we translate the English word from Greek, which is taken from the Hebrew. Interesting how all of that works. So we have these two people. And it says that they were both righteous before God. Now, this idea of being righteous before God, does that mean that they were perfect and without sin? No, that's not what he's saying. Remember that righteousness comes by faith. Moses believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. It was credited to him as righteousness. By faith, they are righteous. They were God followers. They were believing in the promises of God given through the prophets, trusting in him. They were God's people, and God was their God. The Lord was their God. Second of all, it talks about walking blamelessly in all the commandments and statutes of the Lord. There, how do we read that? Not that they, again, were perfect, but they were walking, responding by faith to the commandments that God had given. They weren't flouting their freedom that they had because they were believers in God, but they were obedient to God, not perfect because no one is, but they were trusting in God, following him as God desired them to do, as the Spirit was leading them as well. However, as we look at this, it seems like everything is perfect for them, that they are doing what they need to do, and yet there's a problem. They had no child. Elizabeth was barren. Both were advanced in ages, and they couldn't have a child, especially in the Old Testament time, moving into the New Testament. That was something that women felt great shame about. Because they felt that it was a punishment from God. But yet here are two people who are walking blamelessly before the Lord who yet have not received it. You see, we don't follow the theology of glory that says you are good and God will bless you. Instead, we follow the theology of the cross, that even good people struggle in times of and have times of difficulty, that God never promises us in this life that we won't have problems. Instead, he says in John, in this world, we will have trouble. It's the same way that when people try to blame people's situations on specific sins, sometimes bad things happen to good people. We're going to end there, and tomorrow we're going to pick up with verse 8. Come back. We'll see you then. God bless.